Welcome to Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee or a delicious menu item while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Come by and say hello to Maui. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
War is a topic of vital importance, a subject of inquiry that cannot be ignored. It is a matter of life and death. It can be a road to safety or to ruin.
In an alternate version of our world, brought to the brink of total collapse, rival nations fight for global domination, and elite pilots in futuristic combat suits wage war on the battlefield of tomorrow. Now, 6 brave soldiers on a seemingly routine rescue mission will encounter more than they bargained for and uncover a dangerous secret that could change their world if they live long enough to see it. MAVRICS Origins Volume 1.
Now on Indiegogo.
And good evening, everybody. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at CriticalBlast.com. And as somebody who grew up with things like G-Force and Voltron and all these mech suit groups that come together to fight the bad guys, that trailer actually leaves me pretty excited to check out MAVRICS. So I'm very, very happy to have with us tonight the team behind MAVRICS and the team behind Global Frequency, Neff, Frequency Girl, and Garrett. Welcome, guys.
How's it going? Thanks for having us.
I'm glad to do it. I mean, what am I going to do? If you guys don't come on, I've got nothing. So it's me thanking you completely. This show exists to show you guys off. So let's show you off.
We're super happy to be here, though. I mean, you've run a great show.
Yeah.
I've watched your show quite a bit. I'm nefarious on.
So you're the guy.
And, yeah, I'm the guy. I'm the guy always leaving the comments and up in the chat asking silly questions. But I've seen you do some interviews, and I'm really excited to be here because you do research and actually have questions for guests and stuff, and I appreciate that.
That comes more from ignorance than from research, but thank you nonetheless.
Make it look good, bro.
It's true.
So I really like the campaign. You guys, wow! I haven't brought up the page yet, but you guys had a $500 goal. You surpassed that by $7,000. I would love to know how to do that, but I'm afraid it takes something like talent, and that kind of leaves me out of the game. So how we'll start before this comic and ask about your comic book cred. How long have you all been into comics, and do you remember what got you in? We'll take it one at a time. We'll just go left or right.
Go first this time.
So
Okay.
I'll go first. So I've always been into comics, nerdy stuff. from a really young age, I got into all kinds of stuff like that. My dad had a collection of heavy metal magazines that he let me read when I was a real little guy, which was
That's a cool dad.
ill-advised. But at the same time, like, you know, I showed an interest in drawing from a really young age. So my parents were both really down with giving me stuff to like emulate and look at and inspire my imagination. I got into things like Hero Quest, the old game. Yeah, and when he found out I liked that, my dad dusted off his old copy of first edition Dungeons and Dragons, gave that to me, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" So it just spun from there, and you know, I think I was doomed from a very young age to be involved in some kind of, you know, sci-fi or fantasy art making. And
See, now, if you'd have told me he dusted off his old copy of Champions, then I would have been impressed.
I
Fair
played
enough, fair
Champions. I played Palladium. I played Rifts. I played all the good stuff. You know what I'm talking about.
The only thing I ever really had to do with Champions was create new characters, because there was like nobody in my town they were playing D&D, and I got this. They're like, no, we're going back to D&D. I'm like, but.
I didn't get into Champions and Rifts and stuff until it was much later in my gaming career. Like, talk about it like I've had a career.
It's funny though,
Feels
because
like it.
when I got that first box, it was basic D&D. It wasn't AD&D, and I didn't have any friends to play with, so I ended up just drawing my own kind of like expansions for it, which I didn't realize were a thing at the time. But I was drawing like new character classes, new monsters, new weapons, and giving them like, you know, statistics. So like I kind of tried to make my own. They were awful rules, but you know, I tried.
I played D&D with there was a kid, Bruce Miller, lived 2 doors down from me, and him and James and Sean, we'd all get together, and I was like the oldest kid. I was like 2 years older than all of them, and start throwing the dice, and they'd make up things. I had a cleric. You know, Sean had a cleric. And the cleric had been, you know, watched over by a god, and you know, anytime that the cleric called upon this god, he would heal, or he would take care of stuff. You know, thing was, the god never told the cleric that he was there for him and to call on him. So the cleric always called on him by accident, which, you know, the god's name was Oshid. So every time we ran into, you know, a dungeon full of skeletons, or, you know, a wyvern or something, he'd be like, oh shit. and that's what happened.
I enjoy that.
It's magic.
Frequency Girl, what's your background here?
So my comics that I liked when I was younger, I don't know if they weren't like comic books. It was more like comic strips, and like collections, like Calvin and Hobbes, Far Side. I loved Mad Magazine's Spy vs. Spy. I don't know. I just was super into it. It tickled me. I thought it was great. And then when I was a little bit older, I also read some of my dad's Archie comics and things like that. But then it was Lenore and Emily the Strange and Bear and all those like goth girl angsty teen.
I love Lenore.
But now you
Right,
read...
Lenore's so good.
Yeah, Lenore
Yes.
is really good. But now you read Lady Mechanica.
Yeah,
and,
then when
and
I got
stuff.
older, still Lady Mechanica.
Homesick
Monstrous
Pilots
is my
recently.
absolute
Yeah.
favorite.
Was
I
that,
love Monstrous.
that one that ended? It was a really short miniseries.
Oh, We Live was
Yeah.
also really great. It's actually not ended. They're continuing it. It's
Well,
Aftershock.
They weren't sure if they were going to continue.
Right, so it was like a complete
had to
arc
succeed in order
and
for
of
them to get,
itself.
like, you know,
But I loved
renewed.
it. Like I was bawling, like crying at certain parts, and it was super, super good.
It was
Yeah, I think I was a comic strip guy before I got comic books. I was reading comic books at 4 years old. I went into kindergarten reading, and nobody knew it because I didn't tell anybody, because I thought everybody could do it.
Right.
But my grandfather would always read the Sunday funnies to me when I was over at his house, and I don't know, he was huge into Peanuts. And when I say he was huge into Peanuts, he apparently, at some point in the publication of this newspaper, they had done full-page prints of each of the Peanuts characters, and he had cut them out of the newspaper and had tacked them on his bedroom wall. So they were like, you know, as big as a half sheet of newspaper of the fold, and just the entire Peanuts run. Like,
Oh, that's awesome.
would love to have had those. But yeah, that's
It's not something that you usually, you know, like bring to school anymore, though.
I did love the Peanuts.
No.
though, too.
Can't bring peanuts to school. There's like a,
Oh.
There-
Oh
yeah.
god, that was an awful one.
Yeah. Charlie Brown's running. I'm itchy. I'm feeling itchy.
yeah,
So Nev, what about you? What's your first comic book experiences?
when I was young, like really young, I read like Jughead and the Time Police and stuff like that, like ridiculous, goofy stuff. I had Alf comics. I had I have some of it upstairs actually in one of my boxes. I have some of my really early stuff. But I think what I got into when I was a kid, around 7 or so, I loved G.I. Joe comics, and they were great. My parents used to send me care packages and stuff when I was away at sleepaway camp or whatever, so I didn't get lonely because, snake eyes or something. But I think the first comics that really turned me into a comic book fan was the Jim Lee X-Men #1 and the Todd McFarlane Amazing Spider-Man. Those are comic books that really changed comic books for me. That's when I really got drawn into the art. That's when I got drawn into the appreciation for how complex making comic books seemed to be. Before it was just sort of fun stories like G.I. Joe European Adventures, and then in high school I became a big Image fanboy and saw my first Rob Liefeld, and the rest was history.
I hear that a lot from people doing crowdfunding comics these days. They all harken back to that first Image burst, and I know that X-Men #1 wasn't the Image, but it was the precursor to
it was
Image.
Right around that time, because right after that you got Wildcats. The Image team was formed. You got Cyberforce. You got Youngblood. You got Spawn. Everything kind of fell together in 91, 92, 93 in there for a 12-year-old kid going into being a, like you said, angsty teenager. Originally loved war comics. Stuff like Cyberforce was my jam, and I was like, oh my god, he's a robot guy with 3 arms.
Yep.
Gary and I argue about this all the time because I loved goofy crap like that when I was a kid.
It's funny
Badger
'cause-
is one of your favorites too.
Yeah, but he went through all sorts of different titles.
He and I always disagree on it, and I've gotten him to see some of my side of it, because I don't think the '90s comics are all they were cracked up to be. But he's also shown me some things where I stop and I'm like, oh damn, no, that's actually really good comic making. I think we were looking at Savage Dragon recently, and the actual transitions on panels.
No, issue #1, issue the good stuff.
But I was impressed with some of the panel transitions, because usually when I think about '90s comics, I think about just big splash pages of characters floating in nothing. There's no actual scenery, but in Savage Dragon I was really impressed that there was some solid comic making in there. So.
This is back when Larson was sane.
He
he also has a page in there. It's the one right after the full page spread of Savage Dragon on Fire, where he wakes up in the hospital, and he must have put something like 20 panels on that page, and it's a brilliant successive mix of panels, but it's not all at one distance from the frame. They vary it. They go close, they go far. Into one of these tiny frames, he's got his hospital bed and the cop is standing next to him and he's in his bed, and the next one it's close up on Savage Dragon's face, and then the two of them in profile. So Larson knew what he was doing, moving that stuff around. That's the craft of making comic books.
So
we just started appreciating.
He's helped me appreciate more of the '90s, but for all of that, I still point out the moments when we got Liefeld
not drawing feet,
drawing little nubs for feet and blowing up people's chests, and
Well, if you like to see the craft done and things done with panels, and get a graphic novel that Frequency Girls is going to go all over, I have to recognize Jimmy Gownley's Amelia Rules, because seriously, there are 2 comic book gods when it comes to using the medium with the panels and seeing things done that you've never seen done before. Alan Moore, Jimmy Gownley.
I will also add onto that Brandon Graham, who's doing some amazing work recently. He actually just put out a series called Rain Like Hammers, which is fantastic. The art is a little bit out there. It feels kind of like a throwback to kind of like a Mobius style, but also does some incredible panel work and really kind of exciting, out there kind of things with how he's drawing his book.
You're the third person to recommend Rain Like Hammers to me, so I'm going to I have to seek it out.
Absolutely should check
It's
it out.
different, man.
It's also
it's not traditional Western style storytelling.
he does one of the things I absolutely love, where in the very back of the book, he just writes a little bit as the author, but since he's both author and the artist, it's what he calls a comic book diary, and it's basically like a little like pages out of a sketchbook where he just talks about things he thinks about while making comics and just kind of like notes about that, and there's some really incredible like artistic insight in those pages.
There are definitely things that are out there currently on the stands that are worth looking at. It's sad that for the most part the big two don't really scratch that itch for me anymore, and even Image isn't putting out a lot of titles that excite me, but there are some smaller publishers and occasionally these gems that you can find from the bigger guys that are worth looking at.
Daniel Warren Johnson.
Have to take a shot now.
The actually, speaking of the big ones, Beta Ray Bill by Daniel Warren Johnson.
It's almost over.
It's the final issue of the 5-issue arc is coming out next week. I'm super excited. That has been a tremendously good book, but I think that's a case of
It's the fact that Daniel Warren Johnson can
write
and draw.
And they commissioned him to do a short story series, and he had an idea for it, and that just kind of like blossomed out and was awesome.
He's fantastic though. Like pretty much everything that he's done we're fans of. He just did a 6-page mini story for Superman that like made me weep. How do you do it in 6 pages?
Yeah, that's impressive.
You want to know how to tell a comic book powerfully in 6 pages?
I mean,
That's
hell,
how.
if you're not familiar with Murder Falcon, it's an 8-issue series he did with Image.
We should stop talking about other people's books.
No. It's all right. People should know about this stuff. I'm gonna go. But every single issue of Murder Falcon makes me cry, which is the fact that a comic can make me cry reading it is ridiculous, and somehow Murder Falcon does that.
Yep.
He's not joking though.
Again, Amelia Rules. Amelia Rules is 95% hilarity, and you turn that page and he punches you right in the gut.
I got it right here.
Yeah, it
the
looks
whole world's
super
crazy.
Cute. I'm very
What makes
excited.
you happy?
We're checking this out. Absolutely.
All that, yeah.
When
Jimmy
the cast
Galloway.
is present, I cannot recommend highly enough.
We'll just grab them all.
Side note, he does this one thing where she's sitting down with her mother, looking through the family albums, and it's like every generation is presented in a comic strip drawn in the form of the comic strips of that era. So it's like Great
that's so cool.
Gasoline Alley strip, somebody else is in a Blondie strip, but when it comes to the end of the book, and Amelia's having some self-actualization moments, and she's a middle schooler, so she's having these coming of age kind of things.
Right.
Random panels from those strips fall onto the page again. Same dialogue, but now read in that order with the different people talking, telling a completely different sentence. And those panels, falling the way they do, looked at from a distance, form Amelia's profile. So he's getting into the whole thing of, all of this came together to make her. This isn't a little kid's graphic novel kind of thing.
That's awesome. Oh, I love that.
That's one of the reasons why like sequential art is its own thing, right? Like you can do things with it that you can't do in any other medium.
Yeah,
I'm gonna share a screen. I'm gonna share my screen with you real quick. So this is a page from the Superman short that DWJ just did. Look at the way he uses the colors in the top. Martha and I forget Clark's dad's name.
Jonathan.
Jonathan. They're wearing red, and this is a flashback, of course. I love you, I'm proud of you. And we get a color tone shift to Superman when he's older, and he's seeing these sick kids, and he says, "I love you," and he's talking to these homeless people, and he's saying, "I'm proud of you." If that doesn't do something, that doesn't resonate with you, you do not have a soul. I'm sorry. Like, there's something very powerful about the juxtaposition of those two moments. And that's a 4-panel page.
Yeah.
The dude accomplished that emotional resonance in 4 panels on one page. It told a whole story. That's the type of storytelling that we want to see from the comics that we read, and especially from the comics that we make.
Yeah.
So that seems like a lot to live up to for, I had the thing shared and I lost it now. I have to share the thing. It's a lot to live up to when you're going to make a comic yourself now. And, you finally got insane enough to say, we're going to do this and make a comic. And you know, there's if you want to, you know, for a small investment of a few $1,000s, if you just want to, you know, come out losing only a few hundred, comics is the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people talk about, you know, having these great crowdfunders where they, you know, they see these 6-figure sums, and I'm like, but there's not money in crowdfunding. You want to make money, you go do passive investments, buy land, real estate, go work in app development, software, the tech sector, go be a doctor, anything like that. Get persistent income.
I mean, hell,
in the
before
6 figures.
before I was working just strictly as an artist, I was selling cars, and you can make pretty good money selling cars. But it was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in art.
But there's not, in my opinion, there isn't supposed to be money in crowdfunding. Like, you're supposed to be having people come together to help you bring something amazing into the world. Yeah. And people who are all like, oh my God, he's so rich because of his crowdfunder. It's like, why didn't you just put it in stores and sell it? That's, you know, I don't know. But
a lot of it was, you know, he probably couldn't have put it right in the stores because a lot of the crowdfunding success is because things were gate kept in the first place. You know, when you only have like two or three big houses and you can't get into them, you could try to sell.
I completely agree, but you don't need retail, right? You can sell it off websites. You can go through Amazon. You can go through Webtoon or whatever the hell the kids use these days. There's other places to go other than crowdfunding. The idea behind crowdfunding is that you want to bring people together to make them part of the experience of you bringing the thing to life.
Right. It's not about the money.
That's what people are excited about, is like being with the brand from its inception. Being the guy who's like, I backed that back when it didn't exist. I was behind this. Check out my freaking dog tag that says I was there from day one.
Exactly.
That element of crowdfunding is really what makes me excited. So I'm more than happy to pour investment into it to bring it to that level so more people can help me push it aloft and get it into the stratosphere.
Yeah. And then, of course, it goes on to an in-demand, and then it is an online store.
Yeah, exactly.
So what was the what was happening today when you said MAVRICS is what we're going to do and this is what it's going to be about?
I told the meta plot line to Garrett, and I told him the fundamental philosophy behind the book, and he decided he wanted to draw.
Signed out immediately.
He decided he wanted to quit working and draw a book.
So Aaron told me about this story idea he had, and he had been playing a lot of mech games, like Front Mission. What was it?
He's playing Steel Lancer Arena International. Nobody plays that game.
Slide.
It's called Phantom Crash on Xbox One. He and Frequency Girl are both from originally from New York City area, Long Island, and so he was living there, playing a lot of mech games, doing a lot of walking and thinking like he does, and he came up with this brilliant idea for this whole entire sci-fi epic, and I really do mean epic, and it involves giant robots and mechs. They're cool.
And I listened to this, and I was hearing ideas that I'd never really heard really explored in sci-fi. Granted, I don't know all sci-fi, but I'm pretty knowledgeable, and these were things that I was getting really excited about.
You know about dudes in power armor.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, man, that would be awesome. And he was thinking maybe it could be like a screenplay or something else, but he wasn't sure. And we kind of realized that, hey, man, we could make this as a comic book. Like I've always wanted to make comics. I grew up with them. There's something that I love. I love doing artwork. And I'd be really excited to try and make this look cool. So then we ended up kind of like spitballing how we would present it as a comic, and realized that we had to go a little bit in the past from where the story really picks up and becomes epic, and start to seed everything about this world. Because, you know, from the trailer, it's an alternate version of our world where some serious things have happened, and there has been some intense global conflict that sets the stage for where it goes.
So we had to bring the idea of this like very changed world down to a street level view and show you through the experience of a couple people living in that world what it's like to encounter one scenario in, you know, one time in a city, to just kind of like give you a feel and paint a backdrop before we explore the larger context and the broader scope of the story. But I think really the most difficult part of all of this was that, you know, like Garrett said, I'd been conceiving of it as a screenplay because I went to film school and I knew how to write scripts. I didn't know how to write a comic. And Garrett is
I didn't know how to draw a comic.
incredible. He's an artist, you know, but he didn't know how to draw a comic.
I mean, I went to school for painting. I did not go for school for sequential art, and
we had to figure that part out.
You look at our first pages of this; it shows. It's awful. So
First version.
Yeah,
there's like a million different ways to write a comic. Scott McCloud's book is the best to get. Understanding
we
comics.
have both of them.
But,
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, you can go the Marvel method, which is, hey Jack, Spider-Man fights Doc Ock at a bank robbery downtown. Do it.
Yeah, it's right there.
Or you can go to that's a great book.
Yep.
Or you can
We
go
also
to
understand
Yeah, we have
comics
the
so
other
much.
one there too.
That's in my room because I need to understand comics better.
Or you can go to the other extreme, which is, you know, the Alan Moore method again, where it's like page 1, panel 1, upper left-hand corner, we see raindrops coming down a drain pipe. There's a roach crawling up the pipe. He's about 3/4 of the way. His first leg is extended.
We joke about that all
you're
the
missing
time.
one important part. He's crawling up the drain pipe like a motherless child wistfully gazing upon the wind in the dead heat of summer. Like, there's crazy metaphor in everything Alan Moore writes. And yeah, I had to study scripts to kind of get a feel for what script writing for comics looks like. And like you said, there's really no formal way of writing comics because it's a conversation between the writer and the artist to
it's art
figure out
direction.
how you want to show this thing.
And I think we kind of like have a blessing and a curse in that we work very close together. So Aaron writes a really brilliant script, and I look at it, and I mostly translate that, but then I will be like, hey, I think we need to add a panel here, or this there, or add some stuff going on over here.
Yeah, can we have a visual beat to transition? Oh,
And
yeah,
then
of
Aaron
course.
looks at that and goes, yeah, right. And then rewrites the script to accommodate that, but then ends up writing a little bit more and goes, yeah, that's good, but you need to start doing this now. So then I have to go back into the page. So, like, it's this kind of back and forth where I think we end up with pages that are absolutely gorgeous, but man, oh man, do we
It's
kind
a
of...
process.
Yeah, we go back and forth with edits.
Which is why you got to get an
yeah.
editor. You've
In the
got to
IT world, they
have
call
an
that
editor.
scope creep.
Yeah.
And that's probably the most significant and worthwhile investment that we made on this book, was bringing on an editor like Jake Thomas from Marvel Comics. He joined our team for the Origins Book 1 and Book 2, and he has really taught us a lot about conveying things through the visual medium, and especially in my case, how to effectively deliver a story with pictures that aren't film like pictures, like basic still moments. That combined with Scott McCloud, a better understanding of sequential art and working with an artist directly, I think has been very successful for us making this comic.
I think also the last thing that has really improved both of us is really
Reading.
going out and reading
more comics.
and indulging in comics that are currently on the stands, reaching out to other crowdfunding campaigns and like other indie books and seeing what they're doing.
Yeah, reading all of those books.
We backed a lot this year.
Yeah, but like, don't limit yourself. Looking at things like manga, looking at things from the big two, looking everywhere you can for good art and good comics, good writing, taking what works, and then looking at the things that don't and saying, let's avoid that.
I was gonna say, I think it's also, we've done a lot, especially with like working on the YouTube channel and Coffee and Comics. I mean, you guys were kind of already doing it, but it just added another level to it. And looking at books and being like, oh wait, this doesn't work. I don't like this. Why don't I like this? What isn't working?
I say that to
about
him all the
this
time
sequence
because,
or panel.
like, I don't have the art vocabulary he does.
You're starting to.
I'm developing it, yeah, but it's like teaching a child to speak Chinese or something, you know? Like, it's not my native language, and I'm old, and my brain is not nearly as plastic as it used to be. So I will frequently turn to Garrett and be like, I like this part, but I don't like the rest of it. What don't I like on this page? Can you help me understand what it is about this thing that I'm looking at? And
Well,
I
it's
don't have the
good that
right
you
words.
don't know why you don't like it, but you're asking.
But I do know I don't like it. you
Yeah.
know?
That's like Neil Gaiman used to say: if a reader tells you something's not working, they're almost always right. If they tell you how to fix it, they're almost always wrong.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yep.
So that's definitely been part of the learning process, is assembling our own narrative voice and our own visual sequential voice by taking a look at everything that's out there and compiling the parts that make sense to us. And I kind of did the campaign the same way. I looked at 200 and something campaigns that have been out there, and I lifted what I liked and I left behind what didn't work in my opinion, and then I created this thing, and people seem to like it.
Now, going back and forth this way, and I listened to you guys when I was driving, so I got the whole what does near future mean kind of argument going on.
Yeah,
and,
good. Yeah.
And now I forgot what I was going to say. Maybe I should read the description. Okay, so is this like a post-apocalyptic thing, or is like?
Sort of. I don't really like post-apocalyptic stuff because I think it's too alienating for the viewer. It's like, okay, the world ended and this is the restart.
Yeah.
I don't really like sci-fi that can't let us trace how we got to where we're going from where we are without some sort of sensible roadmap that I can go, oh yeah, okay, I could see that happening. And as a result of that happening, yeah, I could understand why they would do that, and et cetera, et cetera. There are plenty of sci-fi series that, I've looked at and I can, get into, but then I realize that I don't like the context of the story, and what the world is doesn't make any sense to me, how it could ever evolve out of what we currently have. Yeah. So near future approximation it's not this world, it's like this world, and it's after a bunch of horrible things happened, but society isn't over. The world is changed, but the world hasn't ended, Okay. We haven't had to rebuild from scratch.
Yeah, the other thing too is we call our world catastrophe the cascade, partially in the idea that if we saw some kind of horrible event, followed by horrible event all at the same time, so massive volcanic eruptions, massive tectonic activity, tsunamis, all of these catastrophes happening at once. It might just be enough to tip the current world order enough that those collapse and new ones grow.
All right, let's be fair. We had a boat get stuck in a canal and it backed up shipping for days.
Yeah, exactly.
We are not prepared for that kind of problems. We had a pandemic lock us all inside for a year, and our economy's falling apart. Like, these are even just little things, but the cascade was a whole bunch of stuff.
I'm convinced that ship in the canal was completely loaded with every backer and board for the comic book industry, because during that time I could not find any, and I needed them in mass quantities. I'm like, why did the price go up so much? What are they striking at the cardboard mines? I don't know what's going on.
The cardboard mines, I love it. No, that's one of the problems. Like, you see something affect the world. We affect the world every day. We may not realize how much we affect the world every day, but things that we do affect the people around us, and because of that effect, they affect other people, and it reverberates everywhere. I don't want to call it the butterfly effect, but it's the freaking butterfly effect. And, then suddenly someone parks a ship in a canal. The point is that, like, these reverberations pile one on top of the other throughout the world. Small events lead to a cascade of bigger events. Exactly. And all of the different bigger events in concert kind of change the way that the world as we know it exists. It doesn't end the world, but it changes it.
Well, speaking of events, I just refreshed the page because thanks to BAP2 in the chat, you've gone up another $100.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, BAP2.
So awesome. This is what we call our shake and bake moment on the channel.
It's shake and bake, and I help.
Right on.
That's such a good clip.
That's a good one. Yeah, I like that. And I helped. Good for you, RJ.
That was on TV when I was a kid. I'm listening to you guys talk about the comics.
I remember that commercial, actually.
Yep, I remember that commercial.
I used to make shake and bake with my mom, and I would pretend that I was in the commercial and go, and I help.
So we have a world not quite post-apocalyptic, but dang, we went through a bunch of crap. So a lot more militaristic, I would guess.
Yeah.
And we've got mechs. So somebody watched Pacific Rim and said, "Yeah, let's do that."
Not quite as big because those are very unwieldy. Like the super big Gundam mechs, I don't understand how you manufacture those on a construction scale, like a mass production scale, to the degree that they have them.
So we actually did a lot of talking about the practicality of mechs.
Why do mechs have heads?
Yeah, so we tried to push them as to be as ridiculous and fitting into the mech genre as we could, while still keeping them kind of real world and effective. And part of what we did was, we conceived of a world where if suddenly we have such global catastrophes going on that all of the usual routes of travel and trade are gone, maybe you have to rely on more unconventional means of getting places. So like walking war machines makes a lot more sense than tanks. If you're unable to fly because of weird magnetic shifts and your instrumentation goes awry, yeah, you want to be on the ground as opposed to in the air. And then when designing them, we were asking ourselves questions like, should they have heads?
They don't need 5 fingers. Why do they have 5 fingers? Let's cut production costs.
And the people who decide mechs should have heads actually is, in world, Norca thinks, no, we don't need that. We'll just armor the torso.
Hull. Yeah, it's an armored hull.
And just have it be an armored hull. The Unification, who are our nominal antagonists, have other opinions about that. And some of their pilots have been known to take trophies off of MAVRICS when they can, and they actually have very distasteful of the fact that the Norca pilots
don't have heads.
So this is kind of funny.
I sat here and I talked all about Voltron, and I see them coming together, and here's Keith Kagane going, and I'll form the head. Hey, I can't get it. We don't need you.
That's it, right? Yeah, we don't. Why are you here? You're just giving him something to aim at.
We all got windows. We don't need you.
Right?
It's actually a thing in World. You have synthedermal armor plating made out of this ferrocarbonate material, but inside the cockpit, it's translucent because of the electrical current that they use running through it. So even though you have this big, just armored hull, they can see from one side to the other. I think in the trailer you get a shot where she's looking at her hands, adjusting her mech, making sure that they're all working. And there's a honeycomb blue pattern, which is all throughout the.
And let me tell you, I made that decision to do hex pattern on the interior in this interior dome, and I immediately regretted it.
You have to draw every line now.
Yeah, I have to always do interior hex pattern. If you have to do that as an artist, just rethink that immediately.
But it's the right shape for it. Yeah. It makes the most sense.
I think it looks cool, but man, oh man.
The thing is that it itself, the material isn't translucent. The helmets that they wear let them see through it because of the way that the current is running through the mech, and it's attached to their visual cortex through their helmet. So it's the visual interface that they have to see through their own cockpit. It's like virtual reality or augmented reality.
It's like that transparent truck technology that they've got out there now.
So yeah, if someone took a bat to their face and broke their visor, they wouldn't be able to see where they're going. They'd be trapped inside of a mech with no way to pilot, unless they used some sort of secondary systems to be able to, see.
So is there a mouse? My mouse quit moving. Oh, we are in trouble.
Uh-oh.
Oh dear.
Did you have your computer decide to stop operating with you?
No, just the mouse. My wireless mouse. I took, but fortunately, I've had 30 years of IT. I knew to turn it off and back on again.
Here, let me try and fix it.
There we go.
So I was going to ask about the bad guys. I mean, we have a team of heroes. They've got mechs. They've got mechs for combating something.
Yep.
What is this something, or is it just everybody?
So we don't have giant monsters, unfortunately. Sorry, guys. This is not Pacific Rim.
Kaiju.
It is mech on mech right now, or mech on tank, or mech on birotor VTOL aircraft.
Yep.
So it is a military action thriller, so you're going to get military action or military style action. The mechs are about 30-ish, maybe a little bit more feet tall, depending upon the model. And the countries that are currently dominant superpowers have the ability to manufacture large quantities of these mechs. They kind of made this shift to MAV design prior to the Cascade, and all throughout the Cascade they developed their manufacturing and ability to build these things so that they could go to war. Like you said, you've got Norca, the Northern Continental Alliance, on one side, and then you've got the unification of Zhongguo on the other. And we call them the unification. And both of these groups have MAVRICS. They're... What the heck is the acronym again? I always forget my own acronym. Massive Anthropomorphic Vehicular Robotic
check out the
Integrated Combat Suits. Yeah.
I'm like, you know it.
I do know
It's
it.
been
Just
a long
I always
day.
call them MAVs. You know,
Yeah.
I never have to really like think of it off the top of my head. But yeah, it's an acronym.
With no periods, I would not have guessed.
Right. Well, I mean, you don't need. I mean, come on, operational overhead. What the hell are the periods going to do? You know, just get them out of there. You're wasting ink. Got to be efficient. So it's army versus army at this point, and you can see one of the antagonists that we have. I think Frequency Girl is going to share.
I will let you share.
Or you could scroll all the way down because he's on the T-shirt.
Oh yeah, that's right. Never mind. I was gonna.
If I scroll
Like,
all the way down.
all the way down.
Down to the add-ons.
Stop. Go back up. Stop. A little more. Yep, right
There you
there. That's the antagonist. His name is Chernobog. He's got a big red mav and it has a head.
Well, the Norca forces have nicknamed him
Chernobog.
Yeah.
That's not his actual
It's
name.
not his actual name.
One of the things that we thought was cool is because these guys don't really talk very much. You know, like mech pilots don't get out of their mechs and talk. In Gundam, it's Minovsky particles that let them communicate in space.
Right.
But we don't really have vibrations. We will at some point probably have some sort of radio communication. But the people that the mech pilots fight, like if I was fighting in a mech battle, my enemies might call me something, and that might stick as my reputation. And so then I might have a nickname amongst my foes. Yeah. So that's why they call him Chernobog.
Yeah,
because
okay.
it's a Slavic nickname for demon or devil.
And the current war front between Norca and Unification is kind of along the northern China Siberian border, and Norca has been kind of assisting a lot of the more
the Federation
Slavic kind of forces there. So the Chernobog picked up that kind of nickname amongst those people, and it has carried amongst the Norca soldiers who are now in the area. So this guy has been kind of haunting the battlefields of this area for a while now.
So to lay out this whole story, you had to get into political superstructures.
Yep.
You had to, sort of like Kevin Nolan did with The Dark Knight, you had to come up with technology that looked like it would work and had a reasonable and believable evolution to why it was being used over VTOLs or tanks or anything else.
So I don't read. I absorb information through documented literature.
Okay.
With my eyes. No, there is no pleasure in reading anymore. I don't read for fun. I scan and extract information from printed words and file it through my brain so I can come up with stuff like this.
It's funny, like, you know how everyone on their phone, like Google will have the explore section where it'll be like, hey, we think you like these news stories.
Jesus, yeah.
His is all like neuroscience and advanced science technology and all these
and volcanology and talk about
crazy
tectonics and
we have done an incredible amount of work kind of like coming up with a world and technology to kind of give more texture and flavor to Mavericks, and one of the cool things in the campaign is actually at one of the tiers you actually get a hard drive. Not a hard drive. You get a thumb drive, a USB thumb drive.
16 gigs.
that actually contains all of the background, like, data.
Some of
and-
the background.
Yeah, not all of it. You don't
Quite a
want
bit.
all
It's a
of it,
PDF
trust
that
me.
we threw a lot of information into. I honestly don't think you would stay with me for a long enough time if I gave you all of it.
He had just like stacks of papers at one point that were just columns and columns and columns of data and numbers that he would like go through and go back.
There was a really cool. It was the U.S. Colonial Marines Field Manual from Aliens.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever got a chance to see this book, but they actually printed it. It was actually a book that was like all of the tech explained from in-world for the Colonial Marines and Aliens. So like it was talking about how the different firing positions of the smart gun, the actual designation of it, like all of the tech stuff. So we kind of wanted to do something like that and echo that kind of like, you know, here's specs on the different Mavs that Norca fields. And
yeah, if you check out the pilot section, you can see some of their weapon systems actually have names. It's below the merch and the add-ons. I think it's right before the teaser comic on the page. But you know, some of their weapon systems are named like the SABR autocannons, the Saber autocannons. Yeah. The Ocelot rotating cylinder autoguns.
My favorite is Cold Shoulder sniper
the
rifle.
M1 SAK sniper rifle railgun.
Yeah, you have to look at it written out.
There's a lot of homage and Easter eggs and stuff.
We can't help ourselves. We're too much of a nerd.
Material. Yeah, just absolute nerds.
Yeah, that's true.
The Pizza Shack and the taco place.
And I'll give you one.
That doesn't make sense to anyone.
I'll give you a freebie, RJ, that we haven't revealed to anything. I mean, if you look at the rail rifle, it's the M1 SAKA, and Frequency Girl loves this show called A Certain Type of Scientific Railgun, where the main character is Misaka. So it is the Misaka railgun.
Yeah.
But the freebie
when I
I'm going to
saw that, I like screeched. I was so excited. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
The freebie I'm going to give you is the pilot of Chernobog. His name is Kurito Arasawa. And if you're familiar with the Armored Core franchise, you know that the Karasawa laser rifle is the best weapon in the game. So if you take Kurito's first initial, K, and then you write out his last name, Arasawa, you get the Karasawa, which is the homage.
Whoa!
Like I said, nerds.
Yeah, we put
nerds.
we put some deep-seated Easter eggs into this thing, man.
I feel like,
but they're everywhere too. Like, keep your eyes peeled. They're everywhere.
I feel like Ogre on Revenge of the Nerds. All of a sudden, like, that's deep, man. What if like USPAT really spelled dog?
But like you said, like doing the research into, you know, geopolitics and global economics, trade, that kind of stuff, like you pick up all of this information, and it is important to craft a believable world. So of course stuff like that is going to get ingrained.
One thing that came up actually is there's a scene later in the book where a non-combatant is mixing some drinks.
Yeah.
And I won't tell too much because I think I don't want to give away anything about the story.
It's a good scene.
But this guy is in his office mixing a drink, and we were originally going to have it be a whiskey drink, and then I stopped and was like, wait a minute.
Wouldn't make sense.
This is a near apocalyptic setting where, you know, a post Cascade world.
They wouldn't have aged oak barrels.
Yeah, you can't make a whiskey. Because you need oak trees, and if trees are scarce, that's not something you can make anymore. So he's probably got gin. So like it was stupid little things like this that were like constantly kind of going over, making sure things like line up.
But if you're gonna write anything, know what they say, like write what you know. I had to go and know a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. In order to write something.
He could have had whiskey that was older than the Cascade.
He could have, and we were thinking about that. But that would be like seriously flexing on someone, because if you have a barrel of pre-Cascade whiskey, that's over like 30 to 40 years if it was bottled right before
like
the
more
Cascade.
than like a Lafitte wine.
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
like
level
exactly.
of.
That's like a Lafitte.
Yeah.
So it would make a lot more sense if he was just making cocktails, that it would be something like a gin.
Yep.
Yeah, it would have been more decadent if he was pulling something
Oh
up.
yeah. He would also, the guy he's drinking with doesn't actually drink, so.
So we haven't even looked at the tiers here, guys.
Do you wanna? I mean, like, it's
Sorry,
pretty.
we're just having so much fun chatting.
The tier you want, and I'm not saying this because it's the most expensive tier. In fact, I got the price down as low as I could for you guys.
Yeah.
The tier that you want is the collector's box. It's got a box for
That's
all
the
of
one
your,
you're at right now,
all
the
of
fully loaded
things.
campaign box.
There's a lot of things on the campaign, like the standees that have already been unlocked, and then there's the magnet and all that other stuff. And if you're not going to like put it up, like, you know, put a magnet out, or you're going to put out the battle standees, you're going to want to keep everything together. So the collector's box you get on the fully loaded campaign box tier. Then you get all of the variant covers. You also get all of the 5x7 double-sided metal prints of the Virgin covers. You get the Active Duty Ashcan Anthology, which is a separate book of companion missions that were not originally going to be released as a one thing, a one book. Volume, but now they are. Then you get the special dog tags. You get, of course, the base book for you to read.
The Mike McMahon print,
yeah,
the bookmark,
the basic print, the bookmark.
The wraparound cover
by Pal Rodricks.
The cool thing about the dog tags too is that the on the backside is a QR code that lets you actually go to a page of a pilot registry. So rather than just doing like a hey, shout out to our our
page.
collectors backers
like
and some names, you actually get to sign up and create a profile of yourself as a mech pilot. In our universe, where it's like, this is my Mav, this is the country I fly for, this is the all these things.
This is my call sign.
It's not actually putting you in the book, but it's also not putting you on a page with just your name. It's a nice, interesting spot between the two, where you get credited as a backer at the top tier, a campaign box, fully loaded campaign box backer. But you also get to be canonized in a way,
because you're now part of the MAVRICS universe.
Yeah.
You can appear at any point, and just maybe be flyby or just on the radio, and
you never know.
Somewhere.
You never know. There might be
papers.
tiers put in later on. There might be people that we just drag out of nowhere and say, "Hey, can we use your likeness? You got a cool face. I like your call sign. Whatever. It's our franchise. We do with it what we want."
That's true. And I like these add-ons here too.
Then there's the merch tier. And I talked to a bunch of people, and one person, Amanda B., whose opinion I value greatly, said that she would never spend more backing a campaign than $200. That was her ceiling. So I got the merch tier down to $45, and I got the collector's box down to $150, so that I could get it out at $195, and you could have absolutely everything on this campaign for under $200. And when you factor in shipping, that's $220, because the campaign box is $15. It's over 7 pounds. It's a big boy. It is a 10 by 13.
Yeah, that's actually a good
box.
point.
It's not okay.
Our book is actually going to be 9 by 12.
You're getting a brick in the mail.
It's one of those. What's that?
You're saying that this lunchbox and the tumbler fit in the box?
No, it's a separate
no.
package, which is why this is $10 shipping and the campaign box is $15 shipping. But if you add it all up together, I can get it to you for $220, including the shipping.
We tried to work out a way to send it all together, but it just logistically it didn't work. The shipping was going to be too much. Things could have gotten damaged. Like, we've put a lot of thought into how to get all of this
every single thing that's going in the big box.
And like we're saying, the book is going to be huge. Like, we have 60 plus pages of story. We've got another 20 pages of gallery and gallery content, notes and stuff, and it's all printed at 9 by 12, which is a book called Gypsy I love. It's a old Degar book.
Grab a copy Murder Falcon and hold it up against.
The big screen.
So you can just see the.
So here's a normal floppy size, and then here's the 9 by 12. So. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, it's massive, and I love my Euro books, so I convinced these guys to do the crazy thing of let's go big on this. Let's go 9 by 12, and I think it's really good.
That is A4, isn't it? You're frozen. Oh crap! What happened? Who's frozen? Is it me frozen or is it you frozen? Who's frozen, chat? Who is that?
Wait, are we back?
Hey!
I don't know who went away, you or me.
Yeah, I don't know. Everything was just spinning circles, so sorry.
I was talking, so all I did was I went over here to the campaign and I hit the refresh button like this. Like this. Yeah, I was messing with you there.
Sometimes our internet hiccups, so it really could have been us. Who knows?
Yeah.
We also got stretch goals.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks.
Awesome.
That's George, right? Was George the Muppet? Yeah. We've also got stretch goals that we're unlocking every $1,000.
Ooh, so you're close to an $8,000 goal.
Yeah, we're super close.
Well, we have stretch goals all the way to 20 every $1,000, and then after 20, I think we go from 20 to 30, 30 to 50, 50 to something, and then something to 100.
So there's an issue with our graphic that we had for our stretch
It's too
goals.
big.
So we're retooling it, so it's not currently up. We took it
Indiegogo
down.
can't handle it.
We're putting it back up, but we just haven't had a
We had to
chance
edit
to
it
with
down.
everything going on with launching. So
I like
but
this
put in
image
an
right here,
update,
though.
everything.
I like this cover because it gives scale to these mechs compared. Because we know how big a truck is. We know how big a person
Exactly.
is.
In
It's
all
like
of
a
the reference
big
material,
truck.
Garrett put a truck next to all of the different mechs so that you could see just how big they were in relationship to the truck.
Yeah, I mean that's more than 30 feet. You're looking at a good 60 feet there. This guy's got something like a head, so I'm not gonna.
I think those are.
But I like the green one. I like the paint job on the green one because it looks like it's a big green, like a nihilist turned into a mech, and he's coming to eat you.
That's Domo-kun. It's a Japanese radio station mascot.
Well, that does bring to mind though. When pilots in the war, with just simple airplanes, they would paint nose art on their.
Yeah, that's exactly
That's
what
we were going for.
Yep, that was exactly
all of these
what
guys
it was.
also have it on their helmet, like you saw in Top Gun, to like differentiate, and like give themselves a personalized helmet. So in the trailer, one of the pilots, Cold Shoulder, she's the blue sniper on the page. She has some snowflakes, and then Ripper,
Garrett,
the guy with the chain gun, he has the claw marks.
Cool. And Garrett, you can always put a pin up, some girl resting on a guy's shoulder, just because
That's fair, right?
because that's what they did. They didn't put claw marks or anything. They put little swastikas for each one they shot down, and and then they put Betty Page or Betty Grable on the cone. So
There is a suit we have not seen yet, and I don't think he's got any doesn't have any pinup nose art, but I think he is going to have some kill counts on one of his shoulders. So
nice. Oh, and you got Eric Weathers in to do the lettering.
Yep.
Yes.
he did a tremendous job.
Yeah, he really did.
And I heard you talking about Jake Thomas for the editor. Now this is a grab. This is something I haven't heard anybody do with a crowdfunded book before, because you got a Marvel editor.
We got him during Pencils Down.
Yeah.
That's when to get them.
Yeah, we were like, we had.
Yep, that's exactly when to get him. Pencils went down, and I was like, "Get me a guy."
I mean, honestly, COVID,
now is the time.
COVID was a blessing and a curse for us, right?
Yeah.
Because like everybody, it just sucked, right? Like it's not a fun time to be around, but at the same time, it kicked us into high gear.
Gave us opportunities that we wouldn't have otherwise had.
It let us hook up with Jake and get him on the book, and it really focused our attention into like actually putting ourselves out there. And interacting with the community, and taking the whole project seriously. Which we were taking it seriously before, but I don't think we knew about the scope of what we had to do, and like the fact that we had to make a Twitter profile like Aaron did, which god.
Yeah, I made Twitter in January or so. Twitter in January.
Well, no, we had a Twitter. It already existed, but I was in charge of the Twitter. I'm not good with Twitter. I'm not.
And watching your friend get on Twitter and get involved in that is like watching them develop a hard drug habit. It's not good, man. It hurts your soul.
I don't know why they put me in charge of it too. I'm the guy that you should put on Twitter and expose to all of the stuff that's out there and expect me not to comment on it.
I will tell you exactly why. Because for Twitter to work, you have to be quick-witted. You have to be able to respond to things quickly and connect things and make different, you put out memes and GIFs and things like that have meta to them, right? Aaron has all of that, like a library in his brain. And he's just super good at making connections and pulling things together, and he's very witty. So
And you have to be stubborn.
Yeah, well, I'm good at that.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can't give up on things when you're having a conversation or things like that. You always have to be responding and inputting, onto the app. And I don't have the energy to deal with that. So
I remember the old, the old school form of forum combat where insulting people's grammar won you the argument. So.
Yes. But I'll draw all day and night, but I can't be online talking to people. I'll just pass out.
There are some rabbit holes that you can go down, especially on YouTube. I mean, you put a topic into YouTube and it's like, oh, that's not what I was asking for, but that's close and that's kind of cool. And before you know it, you're watching a guy with a human inseminated chicken egg growing a homunculus in a jar. I'm like,
I saw that video.
Oh no!
I saw that video, man.
Yeah, you went down the same rabbit hole. Okay.
Disturbing stuff.
And YouTube has the nerve to knock one of mine off, or somebody said a word, and this guy's growing people in a jar.
Yeah, like weird hybrid.
The
creatures.
Cursed parts of the internet, right?
Yeah, absolutely cursed.
Okay, so how big do you see the Mavericks universe going? I mean, is issue 1 like it says volume 1, so I'm guessing that's a chapter that's setting something up for a larger story.
Origins is in 2 parts. Origins is volume 1 and volume 2, and that's like I said, like very low level, with the pilots in the cockpit in a scenario. Then there's Mavericks Evolution. Which is like a graduation to looking at things on a broader scale. You're talking about societies and stuff at that point. We still follow characters, and we seed all of the characters in Origins. Like I said, write what you know, and you have to be conscious and aware of every decision that you make. You're writing on purpose, which is why Origins was perfect, because I could seed a lot of that stuff that we're going to talk about in Evolutions in Origins, and then have it all come back again. But Evolutions does take place over a broader expanse of the world. You've got different countries going to war and stuff. Yes, Heroinberg, get that 150 collector's box. That is what you want. It's the best value. If you're going to back 2 of the variant covers at the spare magazine tier, just go get the collector's box. You will thank me. Trust me. And right now, like I've only got that planned, volume 1 and volume 2 of Origins, and I'm still doing outlining for Evolution because it's very big. But honestly, that is the first story that I told Garrett, the plot for Evolution.
But that Evolution keeps changing. The reason why that's still in outline form, because as they're working on Origins and finishing Origins, there are lots of conversations that they have where like, oh wait, because of this,
we're gonna have to
it's gonna change. Because of X, it's going to change Y, which is going to continue on. So by the time we get to Evolutions, this now is going to go a different way or have an additional piece to it. So it's very cool to sit in on the meetings and listen and take notes and kind of see like how it has grown from its original inception in Aaron's brain to what it is now. And it just keeps
much smaller in there and a lot, more comfortably fit.
But it keeps getting better and better.
Honestly, one of the reasons I was hooked into this story is the fact that it was so epic, and I would really like to see this epic ridden out to its conclusion. So I think that's one of the benefits of doing crowdfunding, is that hopefully we can cultivate a fan base that wants to see it there as badly as we do.
Yeah, that's the thing, because we're nobodies, like we're not ex-comic pros who are now crowdfunding because they've been gate-kept out of the industry. We're literally nobodies. Nobody knows who we are. We haven't done anything in comic books before. None of our credentials carry over into comics. We have no reputation to stand on. So we have to develop a fan base here and really prove our worth, prove that we're dedicated to quality, that we can fulfill, that we have an understanding of things, that we've learned what it is to do, pay the dues, move forward, climb up the ladder, and accomplish something great. We're building a reputation from the ground up here. We're not falling back onto that reputation and then creating new things.
Yeah, and part of how we've tried to do that is to show that, like, we've been working on this for a long time. We've done all of our research. Like, those in the merch tier, those are photographs of the physical proofs that we have in our possession. So, like, we've ordered things to make sure we have them. If there are issues with printing, we're getting them taken care of now.
To be fair, be completely transparent, I hate the mug.
Yeah, the mug is actually going to be...
The mug is going to get changed and be
changed a little bit.
So much better. The dots did not print well on stainless steel, so we're either going to change it to black and do a better fade of the blue across the white, or we're going to go with a different graphic. I'm not going to put out something that I don't like. You ever watch Top Chef, RJ?
Yeah. Yes, I have.
So you know those episodes where they're like, they got something going out and they're like, no, I can't serve that, pull it. And then the judges are like, well, what happened to that dumpling or whatever? And the guy's like, yeah, I didn't feel comfortable serving it to you. They always get less shit, excuse me, than the guys who sent something out that didn't appease the judges. Or the judges like, why would you serve that, So I would rather spend the extra cost, redesign something, and put it out than put out something I don't like. Now, that said, I don't intend to be late with any of this. No. We've given ourselves enough time to make those mistakes, get those merch proofs back. You talk to anyone who's creating comics and crowdfunding right now, they'll do visual test proofs multiple times and give themselves enough time to do that before they go to fulfillment so they're not late on their deadlines.
Yeah. And you're
got to learn this stuff to play the game.
Oh yeah. And I'm actually liking the Tumblr, but I think it's because I'm like really super thirsty right now, and I need something to drink. But seeing that in juxtaposition with the lunchbox reminds me, everybody's, not everybody, a lot of people are doing lunchboxes, but what I never see with lunchboxes anymore? The matching thermos. Yeah, the matching thermos. My Marvel superhero lunchbox had a thermos.
We couldn't do a thermos, but that is a thermal mug. It'll keep cold, and hot. It has a nice tapered design, too, which allows us to fit everything else in there. And the neoprene gaming mat is a nice size. It can go underneath a keyboard, so you got your hands to rest, or it can be a card gaming mat or whatever. And we use that to wrap around the figurine to go alongside with the mug, so nothing gets jostled around, and it all fits nice and snugly inside the box, so it's not going to bounce around in the mail. We had to make sure all of the dimensions worked out the right way, which is why hunting for this particular mug was important, because we had to get a mug that was the right height and width, so that we could put the figure in there and not crush it against the side.
So this is all stuff we did.
All research. It's all just like writing a comic book or making a comic book. You have to be doing it on purpose, and you have to be making conscious choices.
Now, is that mug? Is that printed with sublimation, or is that like painted right on? Could it be scratched off? Could it come off in the dishwasher, or is it embedded into the metal?
It's not embedded into the metal. No, it's printed on top of. I forget what, off the top of my head. I don't have my notes on me. I forget what the actual material is. Let me see if I have it on my computer.
About 4 inches, George.
What?
George is a professional 3D printer, by the way. He's done some. The spaceships he's done for Joe King it's
awesome.
It's bigger than my hands are spread apart in this screen here, and he's showing it being assembled. So, and that's.
We're big miniature nerds. We do a lot of miniature painting and miniature wargaming, and so dimensions, sizing, assembly, all of that stuff is
we actually
familiar to us. We actually know people at the gaming store with 7 printers who are going to be doing the printing.
We found a really talented sculptor to do the STL for us, and I've been back and forth a lot with him to get the mech looking just right. And then we have a local gaming store who the owner there actually runs a whole printing service. And he actually agreed to kind of cut us a break, and since we're doing a big order of them, and he's actually going to print them all for us in the in resin, not the monofilament.
Putting
plastic, so.
Putting the box together, just to give you an idea here, it costs just under $30 to make that box. $50.
Wow.
We're selling it for $45. We're not making retail margins here. We're not losing money by any means.
It's not just under 30, it's just over 30.
It's like $30 and
No,
30 something cents.
It's $33 and
With the shipping included, the shipping becomes negligible at that point because it's just a box and it gets weighed, and then we put the postage on, and you guys are handling most of the brunt of actually paying the fee to send it through the mail to you. So I'm not losing anything there. But I'm not making retail margins. I'm not doing 150 to 200% markup. I'm making a margin of 50%, under $100%.
Just do a stealing solo with it. Seal the box with tape and slap the label right on it, and just.
We could do that. Yeah, we absolutely. Honestly, I was thinking Ziploc bags.
Oh yes, Ziploc bags would be perfect. Actually, there's nothing really wrong with a Ziploc bag. When we ship comics out for our clients, though, we put the Gemini mailer inside a waterproof sealed bag that's got their cover printed on it. So
we wanted to do Gemini mailers. We really did. They don't make them in 9x12.
Yeah.
Or I should say, they don't make them to accommodate 9x12.
Again, it's my fault because I'm the jerk that convinced everyone to go 9x12. So
they sell media mailers that are adjustable to a 9x12.
They do have media mailers that are adjustable, and honestly, with the right reinforcing and plastic protective layers, the media mailers will be fine. But they also serve our needs better because of all of the goodies that we are including in the stretch goals. Geminis actually have these thin, areas where stuff can fall out. And little small things can fall out of the mailer. And I didn't want that. I wanted to make sure that everyone got their stuff well. So it's kind of a blessing and a curse. We can't, we can't grade this comic because it doesn't fit inside the plastic case for grading, but it also won't come in a mailer where you'll lose your buttons or your whatever.
Now, Garrett talked about seeing this through to an epic conclusion. That tells me that you have an end in story for this idea. And this is he's saying conclusion at the same time. I'm thinking Neff needs to hire about 2 more writers. So, one team can be doing, origins, and one team can be doing evolutions, and have another team, be doing G.I. Joe retribution. I don't know. Because I can see all these different mechs doing different team jobs, and just, a continuous, perpetual franchise.
It's funny that you say that, because in the Active Duty Ashcan anthology, I did bring in guest writers.
Yep.
And I brought in guest artists. So the writers and artists in the Ashcan anthology, Garrett's not in there. We put all of his work into the main book, into Origins Volume 1. It's a $10 add-on, but it also comes in the spare magazine tier that the Active Duty Ashcan anthology, the thing that looks like a folder with the Norca seal stamped on it. There's 3 stories in there with guest artists and writers on them. So you're absolutely right. It would be really cool to bring in some other people and put them onto projects and be like, hey, expand this and do that. And why don't we make a branching storyline here? What?
Multiple missions. They can be happening simultaneously. They can be happening in sequence.
It would be neat. I would definitely do that. But all of my stories are written with an ending in mind. The characters have to have a good arc. And I know you can do chapter arcs, but if you don't know where you're going with the character as a writer, in my opinion, it doesn't feel intentional. A lot of writers, they say there are 3 different types of writer. Okay, there are writers who write for the story, which means they plan their arcs ahead of time, they chart out the growth, and then the characters kind of fill in the story. Then they say there are the character writers, where they write the characters and they really get the depth and flavor of the character, and then the character tells the story. I'm the first kind. I don't like the second time because they tend to write themselves off of a cliff. They just let the character do what the character wants in a world that's maybe not fully fleshed out. You have to be a good mix of the two in order to have a really compelling story, but I tend to lean more towards writing for story and structure. The third type of writer doesn't like editors.
Of course. Yeah, I'm reminded of when Dave McKean and Neil Gaiman had to work together on, I think it was Mirror Mask, I'm not sure. But Dave had done covers for Sandman forever, but he hadn't written with Neil. And the story, apocryphal or not, was that Neil drove Dave crazy because Dave was very much summary and structure, and getting from point A to point B. And Neil was like, all right, let's take these 3 characters and throw them on the stage and see what they do. That was a horrible game.
Having two stylistic writers try and team up. The thing is, if you're going to do something like that, you have to be very upfront with your strengths and weaknesses as a writer or a creative type. My weakness is when I get latched onto an idea and I start building around it. In order to change direction, if the idea isn't working, I literally have to flush it out of my mind. And it takes me a day or two to let go of something that I've been fixating on. And I've had to learn to do that working with my editor and working with Garrett when I'll have dialogue that isn't necessarily the best for the story, and I have to let myself let that go, and fill it in with something else that works better.
You guys actually have like a mantra. I don't know if you guys came up with it yourselves or if you read it from something else, because they'll be going back and forth, and like either Garrett will want to do a cool thing that Aaron isn't so sure about, or Aaron is stuck on this dialogue that or moment that Garrett's like, that's not going to work visually, and then they'll just kind of say it to each other, and that helps them see their way forward.
No line is worth a scene, and no scene is worth the book or the film or whatever. Fixating on the one cool thing that you want to do in a scene isn't worth compromising the scene. And any one cool scene that you want to have isn't worth compromising the overall story. And there are a lot of movies that have or even, comic books who have fallen short of their true potential because they let themselves get caught up in their own bullshit of, I want to have them say this really cool thing.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. They want the payoff, but the thing is, the product, the story, is the payoff.
Exactly.
Ultimately, it's the whole thing of it. So you have to let yourself dial back some of those expectations that you have for yourself, where you want to invest in a particular line or scene, or even character.
So Neff, you're writing this. Garrett, you're drawing it all. Frequency goal.
See that campaign page?
I was going to say, is your job to keep them from killing each other, or you got something else that you get to do?
Yes, sometimes. I'm in charge of all of the logistics stuff, like handling, researching the printers and the vendors, and what are the deadlines, and what are the schedules, and when do we need to have this done by, and okay, Jake needs these pages by Thursday, which means you need to have them done by Tuesday so we can go over them together and send them out. So I do all of the logistics and that.
Sometimes we don't like her.
It's true. She's legitimately our manager, right? The logistics of this would be impossible if it were in the hands of myself and Aaron.
She has a spiral-bound notebook that has the name, address, contact info of every company that is making things in that picture, along with the pricing, the deadlines for the proofs, how fast it takes them to get here, and how much it costs for shipping.
Okay,
so she does that.
I'm going to hire her away from you.
Yes, that's the kind of thing. We all had to learn to do stuff that we didn't know before. But when you want to make a thing and you don't know a skill, you learn the skill.
Yeah.
It's the dedication of making the thing that makes you rise above what you couldn't do and makes you learn to do it so you can.
Yeah, see, I'm 30 years IT, and many of those jobs have been in logistics companies. So, and that's why we had Critical Blast Logistics. I don't know if you've heard me preach about that on any of the streams I've been on, but I'm like, yes, I'd like to have her on my team. That would be great.
I have
your spreadsheets of all those prices.
Your fulfillment stuff, you're really you're right on the forefront, I'd say on the vanguard of what it is we need in crowdfunding, which is organized fulfillment and distribution for crowdfunded projects, and dealing with shipping, because international shipping is murder. You gotta figure out a way to deal with it, man, so that people overseas can have these books without paying twice as much for shipping as the US. Now, we managed to get shipping down to one low rate internationally, and I took a little bit of a hit making sure that all of the international backers could get a physical product. I think the base tier is 20. The middle tier, the spare magazine, is by itself 30, and the collector's box is 50. But that's much better, because when we priced it out, the collector's box going to Australia was 90. You know what I mean?
It's so big and so heavy.
It's over 7 pounds. It's almost 8 pounds, and the box is 10 by 13 by 3. So
that's a great deal.
Australian postage. But like we can take that hit because 1,000 people from Australia probably aren't going to buy this book.
Right.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like it's like herding cats. I mean, I had everything coming from overseas into the U.S. I'm like, okay, it's a science, it's a lock. I've got the 2021 prices in here. They didn't even wait till the year was over before they raised the prices.
Changed them all.
Yep.
Yeah.
I heard the South American postage guys, the guys in Brazil, they just
Yeah.
decided to up and change the cost of everything. Like, what's his name that did Black Tiger?
Rod Looper.
Rod Looper was sending us some original art that we won in an auction. He had to tell us in an email, he's like, guys, I'm sorry, but the postmaster here just raised the prices by $25. I need more money to send you your stuff.
It's insane. And then, you have people in the European Union who are getting stuff shipped to them. They arrive and they're being given a bill for value-added tax.
Yeah.
That's like somebody's like paying 95 euros for a 50-euro product he bought. I'm like, that's 200%. I'm like,
Right.
That's insane.
we have a book in our country that shows you how to deal with people who tax you that way. If you ever revolutionize things over there.
Right. I don't think that they sell it in stores, though. Last I heard.
We might have to crowdfund that one. Here's a story you haven't heard of.
I'm like, you're onto something here. Actually, you might be crowdfunding an anarchist cookbook. All right, we can do that.
Yeah, well, we can't show you anything on the campaign page because.
Oh, but you see how great would that be? You wouldn't have to design anything. You would just like blur out a bunch of images and be like, oh, you see, well, we could show you, but then we'd get struck and this thing would never happen. So you're gonna have to trust us. We meet underneath the Brooklyn Bridge, and the password is Sic Semper Tyrannis.
Yeah, we'd have to do the whole thing. First of all, you'd have to do like Matt Krotz did and crowdfund a decoder ring.
So you could have the cipher
separately.
That's
funny. And then say, hey, if you bought this, here's the new campaign, and it's all in code. So
it's funny because the plot in the book, that flash drive in the merch tier actually plays a part in the book. If you see in the intro, in the trailer basically tells the plot of the book in and of itself. It says, and uncovers a dangerous secret, and they pan over a flash drive in one of our characters' hands.
That was in hand.
That's the flash drive. Yep. You guys are getting the dangerous secret in the merch tier. But it's encrypted. That's the idea. So when you said that, I was like, yeah, I totally crowdfund decoder ring. I know what we're gonna do when we get to $21,000 for the next stretch goal.
Herb, I know what we're gonna do tonight.
No decoder rings.
Come on, just do decoder rings.
No. We're not shipping 100 and
they
something.
They could be plastic like the old Cracker
Now you
Jack
get to see
ones.
the inside of our process.
Yes.
The old Cracker Jack decoder rings that you got in the box, they weren't very heavy, and you could just twist the thing. Do you remember that movie, The Christmas Story, and the kid finally got his Red Ryder decoder ring?
Yes, and
he
was
sat
so
there
mad because it was drink your Ovaltine.
But we wouldn't do that. We would have it be something cool.
There's
You
a
could
different
mail
way
in
to do
box
it.
tops.
There's a different way to do it that's not a ring.
Are you going to use
especially if you have a screen in the story that has a message on it, and the person says, "Damn, it's coded."
We could use
Volume two.
We could
The
use
little
the
cellophane things that used to
Exactly,
get. That's
we could
what I'm thinking.
Oh, are you gonna do the red screen with the blue letters?
That's
Yes,
exactly
that's
that.
the little
That's what we're gonna do.
Yeah. Maybe.
Thank you, RJ. That's brilliant.
Hold on.
We'll do like
No.
the static of
This
the.
is not canon. We're not definitively doing this because I have not had a chance to research any of this
Like
yet,
Garrett
so.
said, you're seeing our process. I get an idea that I latch onto. Garrett starts poking holes in it if he can, and Frequency Girl goes, wait. Let's find out if we can even do this.
I start rubbing my temples because I know
you have to figure out how to draw that.
I'm the one who doesn't
and-
make it.
Exactly. You have to make sure that the red and the blue show the yellow or the green or whatever it is. Yeah.
And then it all
That's
goes
gonna be
away.
cool. I want to see that on my desk Monday.
Oh, sorry. What did you say?
You heard it here first. Just go to Hobby Lobby and look for sheets of red plastic. You're good. It's fine.
There we go.
I know what I'm doing this summer.
Yeah, right.
I keep flashing on Phineas and Ferb now. It's like, I know what we're gonna do today.
Exactly.
I'm still wanting a Phineas and Ferb Pinky and the Brain crossover.
That
Just
would be
Oh,
really
man.
that'd be
Hell
epic.
yeah.
just for Herb, I know what we're going to do today. So Brain, what you want to do tonight? and just have them both intersect. But then I'm still wanting to sit down and write my Chippendales Rescue Rangers, the Rescuers crossover movie, and they won't let me do that either.
With the Rescuers, that would be cool.
Yeah.
That would be super awesome.
You're just looking at all these Warner Brothers properties that you want to be futzing with, and copyright's a thing. Disney and Warner Brothers.
I was going to say
Chippendale. Brain Warner Brothers.
I was thinking Rescuers
Chippendale?
and Chippendale.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so you're now messing with Disney and Warner Brothers, dude. They will send kill teams to your house. It has happened to us twice so far.
You ever seen the movie Brazil, where suddenly the ceiling gets cut in and the kill team just drops and yanks them out of bed? Yeah.
Well, fortunately, there's a guy who will hook the sewer pipe up to their intake valves, and
that's right.
It's the grossest thing in the world. So, what is everyone's Twitter and YouTube account? I know that Heroenberg has been posting it in the chat.
We have one. We have one for the all of us.
That's called branding.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is at the Global Freak with the Q.
It's FREQ, like how Freak Girl is spelled down here.
Okay.
FREQ.
So that's our Twitter.
Global Freak.
At the Global Freak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We also have. What's that?
Because it's a global frequency without the Wincy.
Yeah, exactly. And then we also have globalfrequencystudios.org is our website. You can email us at contact@theglobalfrequencystudios.org or
No studios, just the Global Frequency.
See, oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Theglobalfrequency.org. See, I don't ever read our website.
Yeah.
That's all her. We also are on Instagram, right?
Yep, and that's the Global Frequency, and then YouTube is Global Frequency Studios.
Now, what do you do on your YouTube channel? I know one of the things you do because I was there last Sunday night. But
Sunday we do entertaining content. We do karaoke every other Sunday, interspersed with either some form of role playing, tabletop gaming, something like that. So it's karaoke one weekend and then gaming another. And during the week we usually do 3 shows, 7 p.m. Eastern, where we have on indie creators who've got active campaigns on Indiegogo and on Kickstarter, or indie creators who have crowdfunded campaigns who we're interested in talking to. We have them come on and we just kind of feature them like you do. Pretty much the same format. Yep. It's a winning formula.
Only a lot more successfully.
I don't know about that.
We haven't done them in a little while because we've been super focused on the campaign. We've done non-live stream videos. There's a whole extra level of editing and stuff that goes into that we haven't had a chance to really pay attention to with gearing up for the campaign. But we've had stuff we call Coffee and Comics, where they review different coffees and different
featured
comic
on the
books.
frequency is usually indie stuff, and I'll do 3 things in one episode. I'll talk about books. It's not so reviewy as it is just giving my thoughts on something and bringing it to your attention so you can go check it out.
Yeah.
We will be doing some review stuff, but that's a new series that's coming.
Yeah, there's a new one. It's Aaron and Frog G.
Yeah, we did
and
Frog and the Freak, and we reviewed books that we have backed recently. So it's all crowdfunded stuff because Frog G backs everything, and so do we. So
edited videos are a lot more work. I mean,
they are.
Yeah, they are.
Dude, the trailer,
incredible.
Holy crap, the trailer.
Yeah.
I found out I had a whole archive of all these digital audio interviews I did, because before I did live streams like this, Critical Blast has been around for 6 years. And before that, I spent 14 years with thetrades.com. But I would record phone calls, and then I would sit there and play them back and type the interviews in,
Wow.
like taking dictation. So I've got all these audio calls with Alan Parson and Catherine Beaumont, who voiced Wendy and Alice for the Disney cartoons.
Awesome. Yeah.
So I'm just
you should do?
I'm converting them to audio slideshows now for YouTube.
Yeah, I was going to say, you should do crudely done animation and do storytime animation where you can
I couldn't do that at all. But
What's
I couldn't do that. I had no talent for that at all. But I've got some of them up now. I got my phone call with Lou Scheimer from Filmation Studios is on the website now. We got to talk about Star Trek and Fat Albert and Cosby Kids and He-Man. I wish Lou was still with us so I could ask him about He-Man.
Because it would be a
yeah.
first-hand experience, really. He would have like actually something to say on the matter because the revival, in the original product, at least from his point of view, probably be received very differently. Although, I did see a photo recently circulated on Twitter. I think I already downloaded it and could probably share it with you. It's Kevin Smith, a whole bunch of merchandise that's all based off of the new Masters of the Universe thing that he did. There's like He-Man cereal, and there's hot sauce, and there's candy bars, and all sorts of merch. And he's got the shoes, but it's just like a really big spread. And everyone's talking about how he didn't stay true to the spirit of the original. And while he may not have stayed true to the subject of the original, I think he totally stayed true to the spirit, because that comic book was made to sell merch, or that the show was made to sell merch.
Yeah, it was.
It was all action figures, He-Man. So
But
I
the TV show at
think
the time
he's just
was
pushing, like brand merchandise on us with this one. It's 5 episodes, and he's already got like 30 different diversified
But does
products.
he have He-Man the flamethrower?
Not yet, no.
Oh, okay.
And it's not a
See, he's
flamethrower,
failing.
Garrett. It's not. He couldn't sell a flamethrower. It wasn't allowed. He had to change the name to not a flamethrower.
Well, I'm talking
This
about
is not a
Spaceballs, but...
flamethrower. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was talking about Elon Musk.
No.
Oh, no, we were talking about Spaceballs. Yeah.
Oh, I
Come on
still
now.
think
I'm classy.
Right?
so. You know the whole brouhaha about how they digitally edited Star Wars and made new effects on it. I will forgive Spaceballs a digital edit. If they would do it.
Yes.
Do you know when they pull
Absolutely.
out the rack of the VHS tapes? Mm-hmm. If they just would digitally edit the lower rack and put Blu-rays on it and a sign, "Do not open till 2020."
That would be great. Yeah.
That'd be
Smart.
awesome.
Very smart.
Call it the McClunky edition.
Exactly.
All right, well, guys, we've gone overtime here because I had fun. That's a sign that I had fun talking with you guys.
Oh, thanks
There's
for talking
3 of
about
us,
that.
so we
Yeah.
talked 3 times as long.
Yeah, it's true.
This is it does help. The more people, the better. I mean, there's times I'm like, I'm 20 minutes in, I'm like, I don't know where this guy. I'm done. I wish I know, but this one just kind of flew right by, and that's a lot of fun. Got a question from the chat, Herrenberg.
Yes.
Does that be a crowdfunded campaign for a book to be featured? If you're talking on my channel, no. I mean, we have authors who have just books on Amazon, and we'll have them on. Again, without a campaign to show, it goes by a lot quicker.
I know of Heroinberg. I know of the theme song for Heroinberg, too. And I'm not going to sing it because it gets stuck in my
It does.
head
He'll walk
every
around
freaking...
singing
All right.
it.
She's living in Heroinberg. Yeah, I mean,
But-
seriously. So, Heroinberg, if you want to come on the show, just DM us and we'll set something up. Like, we're a little bit busy with the campaign, but
Yeah.
we will be going back to streaming in August.
We're just excited about comics. So if any kind of creator has something they wanna talk about,
Yeah, I mean, we've had Fogbreaker Studios on with their mini comics.
Yeah.
They don't have a crowdfunding campaign, but they have their website.
Peter Palmiotti is a good friend of the channel.
Yeah,
and
and
he
he's-
already crowdfunded Retro. He doesn't
Right.
have something in the
Is
crowdfunding.
Peter
yet.
related to Jimmy? Are they
Yeah.
brothers?
Yes, that's
brothers.
his brother.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, it was just too much of a coincidence for it not to be. Herrenberg's got a great thing going where he's got the comic book and then he's got
And
the
the TV show,
series.
yeah, the web
So-
show.
so-
yep.
So that's where you guys take this now. You go into 3D animated mech episodes on the web.
There is a $100,000 stretch goal.
Oh, well, there you go.
And I like it because even digital backers can get that one.
that's true.
This is true. You just need 20,000 of them, 20,000 digital backers, and you've got or you put a $100,000 tier out there, and then you only need one.
True.
That's fair.
Good point.
I don't know what we would offer for $100,000.
Well, I know what our stretch goal is, but I don't know if we could deliver that to a single backer.
Yeah, only you get to watch it. The
They
one
get to be a
person.
voice actor.
Oh, there you go.
All right,
go.
guys, thank you so much for bringing Mavericks onto the channel tonight. I have
Thanks for having
appreciated
us.
it.
Thank you for having us.
Folks, if you're watching in the chat, you're watching the replay, the link to the Indiegogo is right down there. It's the very first line in the description of this video. Of course, we've thrown it several times into the chat, but sometimes I don't save the videos right, and sometimes we don't get the live chat replaying. So I want to make sure that it's right down there. Click on it, check it out. I know you hear the whole share and like business. I don't say like because if you don't like me, I don't want to beg you to. That's fine. Bum me down if you wish. But do share, not for me, but again, to put the Mavericks team in front of the eyeballs of your social circle, which, will be different from everybody else's social circle, to broaden this thing out there, get it in front of as many people as possible, help them hit this next $8,000 stretch goal.
We're pretty close.
Yeah.
You're very close. You're $400 away now. So,
Fantastic.
So everyone in the chat, thank you for showing up. We don't have a show without you. And as always, we just hope you had a blast.